Good morning, everybody in TLDC land. Just wanted to welcome you all to the Women in Learning and Development event for 2024. I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this. And Luis reminded me just recently that we did this live in 2019. He was reminding me that I had done one of the live events. So we've been doing this for a while. I have to tell you, there's just incredible value in what we do. And I'm just excited. We have such a great lineup for you guys. So be sure to tune in where you can. It sounds like we have about 700 people registered right now, which is awesome. And so, we're killing it, ladies. This is awesome stuff. So for our very first session this morning, we are bringing you Leah Chang. And so her topic is one I'm actually really interested in as well, is yes, you can succeed as a self-employed learning and development consultant, which I'm really excited about. So this is a great way to start this out. A couple of slides I want to share with you guys really quick. Just want to say thank you, by the way, to the folks that have really worked hard to plan this out. First of all, thank you to our speakers. I can't even tell you what a great lineup we have. This is just so exciting. And I wish I could be present for all of them. Probably like everybody else, I have to work a little bit this week, but I'm going to try to sneak out and hit as many of them as I can. So if you guys can do that, please do, because, bring us the love. So thank you as well to our sponsors. So we've got EB Graphics, ELB Learning, Clapperidge, and Into a Bell. So we've got some cool sponsors. So make sure these folks will probably be at our table. So if you want to stop and chat with them, that would be great too. Next, we want to say thank you to our program team, because there's just literally no way we could do this without all of the amazing women who jump in to put their time in, bring in our speakers, get the organization set up. So it's been, like this level of amazing women that have worked on this project now for the last 5 years. So I'm really proud to be part of it. And thank you to donors. So we have like a donor ticket that we do when people jump in to register. And so these are folks that have done that. We have such an amazing community. So let me stop presenting. I want to introduce Leah to you. So Leah Chang she's a seasoned educator and the founder of Leah Chang Learning Incorporated. She leads a team of specialized folks who do instructional design, education coaching, and project management for learning projects. She has 17 years of experience. She's developed for fintech and all the way to public education. So she's got a wide range of verticals she's worked in, emphasizing the simplification of taking those complex concepts and bringing them down. And she also works in digital adoption, so some change management there. Her work spans nonprofit and corporate settings. She focuses on creating impactful online and classroom learning materials. So she does a little bit of everything. So welcome, Leah. We are so glad to have you here, and we're really eager to hear what you have to say to those of us who have some interest in getting into working and running our own small businesses.
Thank you, Toddi, and welcome everyone. I just want to make sure you can hear me, you can see me. I've got a poll up if you haven't noticed it yet. Awesome. Thanks for the thumbs up. I love seeing those little emojis pop up. Great. So I'm really honored to be here, and I'm going to share my screen in a second. So I just want to leave the poll up for a few more minutes, but maybe I'll just read it out quickly. Okay, here we go. So you should see it now. So I'm kind of curious, welcome to the first session of the Women in Learning and Development Conference. Are you a consultant right now? Are you thinking about being a consultant? Are you none of the above? And if that's the case, I'd invite you to write in the chat. I'd love to hear, who are you? I want to ask all of you to participate today. And we're going to be crowdsourcing a lot of advice and tips, because it's definitely not all going to come from me. And that's the whole purpose of today. So I'm going to hide the poll in a couple seconds, but what I'm seeing are some really interesting results. So we've got about 18% full-time consultants. We have, 12% part-time. Whoa, 33.33% are thinking about leaving employment and going into consulting. Others, I'm really fascinated by this one. So about 10% of you are currently employees, but you act or embrace the role of being a consultant. That's awesome. and 25% say none of these. I'm curious how you identify. So I'm going to close that poll, but feel free to add more information in the chat. And I'm going to share some slides. Here we go. In 2 seconds as I get my tech going here. All right. So give me some thumbs up if you can see the slides. Hopefully they show up for you. And I'm going to have the chat open as well. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So I'm super honored to be here. And I am calling in from New Westminster, which is just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, which is on the unceded territory of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam peoples. And so you may notice some Canadian spellings in my slides today. You might hear a little bit of a Canadian accent. I just want to say that it's really exciting to work in North America as a learning and development professional. I'm also really honored to be able to speak French, and so I do a lot of national projects in Canada. So my pronouns are she, her, or elle, if you like. I'm also a woman of Chinese Canadian descent, even though I may not look like it. I am half Chinese. And so I just want to say it's a super honor to be here as the first person of the conference. So I want to say a huge thank you to this community. I'd love to see some claps and hearts. This is really the reason why I've, I'd like to say I'm successful. It's because of support, because of the peers that we have, and also because of communities like this that offer us platforms to share and learn from each other. So thank you, Lewis. Thank you to all the people who organized the event. And I'm really excited to be a woman in learning tech. It's a very unique space. I am really keen to sort of get learning and development and e-learning and learning technology seen as part of STEM and be taken seriously. And I've really felt very valued and really motivated by being a consultant. So today I'm really going to share a little bit about my journey, but it's mostly just examples for you to consider. There is no right answer. There is no one path. And in fact, I hope to inspire you, and maybe you want to see what I've done and do the entire opposite, and that's okay too. So today I'd like to invite everyone to help me crowdsource some tips. We're going to be using the chat. We're going to do some Q&A. And in my session title, I wrote a term that I actually hope I will not use today. So I'm just going to call this out as part of my my own challenge for today. Is when I join a lot of women forward sort of learning and development or professional development sessions, I hear the word imposter syndrome quite a lot. And so I want us to just put that aside today. So that's going to be my challenge for myself. I'm going to help us, trust our gut, lean on resources, and really lean on the experience that we have collectively developed in our industry. So I want to sort of avoid that term today. So that's going to be my challenge. And not to say that doesn't exist, but that it's something that we can get lost in, right? Another couple disclaimers, which is consulting is not for everybody. It's also not mandatory. You don't have to like it. You don't have to do it. It's amazing. And if you're in a great employee position, like that's great. It's all okay. And if you want to try consulting and go back to being an employee, that's also okay. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my journey, and hopefully that inspires you. So feel free to ask me anything related to learning and development. You can always contact me afterwards, but I'm going to pause throughout and answer some questions. So I may not have my eye on the chat, but Toddi, you can help me when we get to some pauses in the session. I'm just going to go into some questions. I want it to be as fruitful as possible. So please feel free to use the Q&A. So first I want to ask, what are some of the terminology that you use in this world, I guess, right? So I guess the words like freelancer are not really things I may use today in the presentation, but I definitely see myself as a contractor. I have been a subcontractor in the past. definitely a side hustler, except that now this is my full-time gig, and I am really honored to be full-time self-employed, and it's been sustainable for me since 2016. I also employ other individuals. We have one of my employees here today, as well as a whole team of consultants, and they themselves are contractors and subcontractors. So I'm just going to use the term consultant today because I really want us to embrace that as a philosophy. And so even if you're an employee, or if you go back to being an employee, you can still be a consultant. And I want us to think about that as sort of our concept. Just really curious if anyone, uses the term consultancy or agency. You might hear me say some of those today. Leah Chang Learning is very much an agency. We are sort of an extension of internal teams, I like to say. So I think we've already done the quick poll. So I'm just curious if anyone else has not had a chance to join yet, you can enter in the chat. And so it looks like we have a lot of people interested in becoming a consultant or maybe leaving employment. And so here's what I can share about my journey. You can see that there's been a lot of different bumps all over the place. And it's because I've had the chance to be an employee in a union environment. So I started off as an educator. I worked in post-secondary. I also worked in secondary. I taught high school for many, many years. I moved into digital marketing as an employee. I learned that there was something called corporate training out there. I had no idea that existed, and I became the learning center lead for a private insurance company. And then throughout, I kept, trying to go into consulting and kept getting pulled back to being an employee. And it wasn't until about 2016 that I left employment to be a full-time consultant. And since then, I again kept getting pulled back and forth. So all of this to say that I've tried a lot of different things. So you can take my advice for what it's worth, but there's no harm in trying different situations. There are benefits to all of these situations, and there are some cons as well, right? So let's be honest about that today. So if you want to ask me any questions about any of these opportunities or these types of roles that I've played, you're welcome to. So right now today I went from being a single consultant, a solopreneur, if you will, to hiring other consultants to work with me. So they were subcontractors. I now have contractors and some employees, and so I'm really honored to actually have an agency in this space, and we get to do some really cool stuff together. So these are the questions I want to ask all of us today. So I will share from my experience, and you are welcome to share from yours. And I'm just going to make sure I've got the chat open here. So the questions really are, why become an L&D consultant, freelancer, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call that? And why leave employment if you're already in employment? And these are some possible answers that you may want to consider. It's always good to have options, right? And my experience is not the only experience. So I just want to share that these are questions we can all help answer today. So I'm going to answer these questions with a little bit of a story, but also I want to look at, in any workplace, be it on a team, be it in employment, these are the drivers of healthy teams or healthy workers, right? So I don't know if anyone's seen this before. If you have, you can give me a thumbs up or you can say something in the chat. But I should probably have the chat open. There we go. We got some thumbs up. So just to explain this really quickly, if you're an employee on a team and you're feeling like it's a great fit, you probably experience these three things on a daily basis, maybe some in different varieties or different amounts, but you're working in a place where you have cognitive diversity. So there's different opinions, there's different experiences, backgrounds, cultures, you name it. And that is exciting and gives you a lot of cognitive stimulation, right? And so here I have like the unique snowflake. So we are all a wealth of information, and that diversity is what makes working together really exciting. You also probably have psychological safety. You feel safe. You feel like you can speak up. You feel like your opinions and your advice matters. And you also feel very driven to do the work. There's something driving you. You feel personal, professional satisfaction. You've got that fire lit under you. So if you're feeling all three of these things right now and whatever it is you're doing, that's awesome. Congratulations. I am one of those people. I definitely feel like I have hit a balance of these three things, but it took me a long time to get there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the drivers of successful workplaces and use that as a framework today. And there we go. Here's some examples. So one thing I love about being a consultant is that the more opinions and ideas and data and evidence, the better we can problem solve. And so I embrace this on my team, and I love this part of my job. Also, who loves to work with subject matter experts in a variety of topics that you know nothing about? I love that. I get to work with engineers and, professionals in all sorts of things, tradespeople. I get to work with scientists, and I get to work with nonprofits. I get to work with case managers, social workers. It is constantly helping me learn and push my boundaries, and I love that. I love that part of our job. It is also kind of overwhelming sometimes, let's be honest, right? So the more I work with different topics and different subject matter experts, the more I can feel a little bit of like, whew, okay, my brain's a little tired right now. But I am never bored in what I do as an instructional designer, and I hope you feel the same. So I crave that, and I really enjoy that. I also embrace that on my team. I want people to be able to share different perspectives. It helps us work better together. It's also very tied to psychological safety. For us to have healthy cognitive diversity and not cognitive dissonance, we have to feel safe. We have to feel respected. We want to know that our approach and our suggestions or ideas and opinions are well met and valued. And that's so important. I think a lot of us who work in HR or work in other learning and development teams know how important this is to culture, not just to a workplace culture, but to your own personal, professional culture. And then lastly is motivational drive. So I'm going to talk a lot about this today. But what gets you fired up? For me, it's things that start with the letter A. So I would like to have some authority over my work, my time, how I spend my time. And I love to have the flexibility. Like this morning, I'm in Pacific time zone, but I was all gung-ho to be the first speaker at 8 o'clock in Pacific. So that works better for me. I'd rather do something early in the morning than later at night. And a lot of my team are the opposite. They like to work at 3 in the morning, and that's okay, right? I also want agency. I want to feel like I can make some decisions and really drive something forward and feel proud of it, I really enjoy the autonomy as well. And these are things I didn't always have in an employee situation or even as a consultant on a consulting team that was not my own. So I just want to share that probably a lot of us have spent a lot of time doing compliance training, learning and development for, occupational health and safety. Do I have any hands up there? There are some, modules I've designed that I was kind of snoozing when I was designing them. They were not really driving me passionately. And sometimes we have to do that, right? And as an employee, I found that very challenging to stay motivated. And so that's another reason why I left and decided to work on my own. And I gotta say, the motivational drive is so high on a team where we get to choose our own projects. We get to choose the clients we work with. And one of the values at LCL is we want to be part of a community. So there's huge rewards there. And so that's why we end up working mostly with nonprofit organizations. We get to pick and choose the projects we work on. And so that means our team is thriving when we have these three things. And, you can be a team of one as well, in the sense that you partner with your clients, you partner with the groups of people you work with, because we're never alone in this instructional design world, right? And that's the exciting thing. But it's really important to maintain all of these elements pointing up to be thriving. So you need to have high cognitive diversity to feel motivated, to continue learning, to challenge yourself. You need high psychological safety to make sure that you are producing your best work. Our brains don't work very well, as we know, when we are in a highly anxious state. We need to sort of leverage the executive functioning skills. And motivational drive brings all of that together. If you have those three things pointing up, then you're going to have a lot of enjoyment, and that's really what we're looking for, right? We work best when we are feeling driven, right? And the converse can happen. So you don't want to be a dying consultant or a dying team or a dying workplace if all these three things are so if they're not pointing up, then you will be feeling a burnout and all those awful things that we want to avoid. So for longevity's sake, you want to think about the balance of those three things. So I'm going to pause here for a second, and I'm going to ask everybody to help me in the chat, just to share, like, how are some of the ways that you maintain and get cognitive diversity? Even if you're an employee, you can also consider this, as well as, being able to choose your projects as a consultant. So just going to make sure I've got the chat open here, and I'm going to see if anyone has any comments, but feel free to post them as we go. So the couple of things that I really love about being a consultant is that I get to work with a variety of different people, and I want to work with people who are open to being challenged, and I want them to challenge me. And so that brings me a lot of excitement. It brings me a lot of stimulation. And also, I really enjoy working with groups of subject matter experts that bring new ideas and new ways of thinking to things. And also, as leaders in learning and development, we have a huge role to play in terms of inclusion, accessibility, in terms of universal design thinking for learning. This is a fantastic industry to really dial that up. So I'm just going to check if anyone is adding any chat right now. Toddi, if I'm missing any, let me know, but I'm not seeing any chat right now. That's okay. All right.
Yeah, some questions in Q&A. So if you want to, there's a couple in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's pause and read one of them, and then I'll keep going.
Okay.
I'm not able to see them, but yeah. Do you want to read one of them out for me? Oh, okay. Here we go.
I can actually show this one on stage for you. There you go.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, thanks, Tiffany. How did you begin to find clients? Interested to hear what you got started. Yeah, thanks for the question. So a lot of my clients came from my network. I volunteer with nonprofits. I'm on the board. I've been an employee at nonprofits. And so for me, it's never really about going and doing business development. It's more about the relationships, the reputation, and the reliability that I've demonstrated as a professional over the years. So I mostly just put the word out there. If you put the word out there, your network will respond. We have a lot of people here today and throughout the week who are super good at that. If you just put it out to the universe, like, hi folks, looking for consultants, I would love to do X, Y, or Z, or I'm looking for a position, I would like to help clients, I'm available, I'm ready. Put it out there, and that's how I got started. I hope that answers your question, Tiffany. What I found the most fruitful in terms of business development is when I continue working with the same types of clients, they end up talking to each other, right? I think the strongest thing that I've found in terms of gaining more clients is for some reason, somehow, some way, I got recommended by an executive director of a nonprofit group who belongs to a group of women executive directors. And so they added me as one of their, inner circle sort of referrals, and I get a lot of business through that. So wherever you want to specialize, whatever types of clients you have, I would say, get involved in that space. Give back to that community. It's never wasted time. It's always fruitful. So hopefully that's a good answer. Thanks. That's a good one. Great. I'm going to skip to the next slide, and we'll ask some more questions throughout. So another thing for me for motivational drive was, and I'm going to tell a bit of a story, and feel free to, send me some love if you also feel this, but I had a few positions where I was the only woman. I remember being, I was facilitating a session, or I was, assisting with a live session. I had done the instructional design for an event. I was the only woman in the room of 68 men. It was very uncomfortable. I remember participating in a few other sessions at the same workplace, and someone called me kiddo. I think I was 40 at the time, and I have 2 masters, and the person who called me kiddo was probably only a couple of years older. And I looked at this person and I just laughed, you know. I definitely didn't feel like I was respected, and it was hard to feel motivated in a place like that. Yeah, I know, right? Hopefully that never happens to you. Um, you know, because I like to work hard, and I like to continue learning and try new things. You know, I bring a certain energy. If I lose that, then I'm not feeling like I am in a good place professionally. So for me, motivational drive is super important. I'm just curious now, and now that I have the right chat open, sorry, I had like a different one. I'm curious, does anyone else have any points about motivational drive? How do you maintain and keep that fire lit under you in any position you're at, whether you're a subcontractor, contractor, employee? What are the things that keep driving you? It could be about learning new topics, learning new knowledge, trying new technology. And I'm going to share a little story, which is, turns out my motivational drive comes from learning technology in our space. I've done a lot of just working with course development and design, and that's awesome. But I realized that there's this opportunity to really look at the full picture of what I call a full cycle e-learning for my clients, which is the learning technology piece. And that gives me a lot of drive because I really feel like we're bringing everything together in the learning experience. It's as important to make sure you have the right technological infrastructure and the systems to develop and deliver the learning, as well as the experience itself. So that's something I would have had no idea about back in the day. All right, so I think I forgot one, which was psychological safety. There we go. So I think a lot of us talk about psychological safety quite often, but I'm just going to point out that pre-pandemic, I was working from home for many, many years. And so I loved the pandemic in the sense that I was already primed and ready to work from home, and our industry really boomed. We are thankfully one of those silver lining things that happened during COVID, which was exciting because we got to help a lot of organizations. One thing I realized is that I had to leave employment because I found it socially overwhelming. So for me, and for a lot of neurodiverse individuals, being able to manage my own time, being able to gauge how much social energy I use throughout the day is really important. And I'd much rather be on and be with individuals like yourselves in these kinds of situations, or to talk with clients who are primed and ready and excited and curious about my services and about learning science, instead of trying to kind of explain to people and get them motivated and get them to buy into what we can provide as professionals. So for me, being a consultant provides a lot of psychological safety. It's kind of exciting to be hired for your opinion and for your experience, and that makes me feel so valued in my day-to-day. So I'm going to just move forward. And on that note, let's think of, even if you are an employee, how can thinking like a consultant help you in your role, right? So I want this to be really, let me go one more step, really valuable for everybody in this situation, in this presentation today. So let's remember Addie, our good old Addie. For me, being a consultant means we really take the A in Addie seriously, right? So I think everyone here knows the value of the analysis part. The learning needs analysis is so important. It drives everything in terms of the full cycle. Thanks for the applause. That's great. I don't need to preach to the choir here. But what I love is that being a consultant, people expect the analysis. They want it. Sometimes we get hired just to do that, right? Or they'll bring their content to us to ask us to assess, evaluate, and then help them design it. I tend to decline projects where they just want us to, quote unquote, put it in the LMS. I spend a lot of time in the analysis and design phases, educating the clients in terms of what does this mean? Why do we do this? How do we do it together? How do we ensure that you are achieving the goals that you set out to do? It's not just lip service. It's really, it needs to be measurable. So I find being a consultant is really baking that in, and it's expected. You don't skip that stage. And if I have clients who ask me to just put it in the LMS, I may not work with them, or I may have a tough conversation with them, which is something that they hire me for, right? Same thing with my consulting team. So whether they're employees or whether they're consultants, I ask them to make evidence-based decisions. We are very rigorous in terms of working with a group. We ask each other for advice. We think about things. At the end of the day, if we're not achieving the measurable outcomes that we hope to, then we're not really doing a good job. And so you might hear me joke about, like, we're not course development monkeys for hire. We're not guns for hire. We don't just put things in the LMS, and we might lose work for that. Some people just need to outsource something, and there's lots of other groups out there that do that. So in the beginning, of course, I made lots of mistakes. I took all sorts of work, and that's okay too. It's okay to make mistakes. But as our team grows and evolves, and as we bring on, there's more and more professionals in our space now, which is amazing. It's so important to really base it on the analysis. Do not skip the learning needs analysis. So when my team says, yes, but the client wants X, the client asked for Y, I say, okay, but is that the right approach? So I always have a conversation with the clients. We show them our learning analysis and our design plans. We show them the rationale. We explain that. It's very much about client education in a way that makes it easy for us to confirm and validate assumptions or requests. And what it comes down to is sometimes we may say, great, you came to us asking for a webinar. However, our evidence and our research is showing that these delivery methods may actually be a better fit. Here's why, here's how we can do it in budget and help you achieve your goals and maybe go beyond your goals. So it is really exciting to have those conversations. I'm going to share a little bit about our brand in a second, but let me just pause and see if there's any questions. I want to tell the story of where this logo and the name came from. But before I do that, let's flip to a question. Toddi, do we have one? Noticing some great chat today. Thank you. I love some of these comments about, like turning the tables or encouraging people to be colleagues or to model the professionalism. I think that's great. Toddi, did you see a question you wanted to share?
Yep, I do. I have one I'm going to put up here for you. This is, okay, it's up on the stage now.
Ooh, I love this question. Thank you. When you first started out, did you have someone to talk through different, sorry, I can't read today, to talk through projects and difficult areas? Yeah, awesome. Yes, absolutely. I had multiple someones, and I still do. One of the slides, if I can get to it later, we'll see, is about who are my advisors. I have a whole group of people around me constantly advising me, mostly peers. I didn't have the courage to become a consultant until I talked to other women who were doing it. I asked them what their advice was. I asked them who they work with. And, it was thanks to them that I was able to get started. So nobody can do this alone, right? Also talking to, other people who are in your local area or even just in this virtual space. This is super important. So I'll just give you 4 main people that I have and I talk to still. One is other women who have been consultants longer than me, whether they're in learning and development or not. Those women are smart. They know what they're doing. They have advice that you can take or leave for yourself, but at least you're, basing it off of something, right? Accountant. I have a really great accounting team. I have an executive coach. And I have peers. Like, I really talk a lot with my instructional designers on my team. I want them to sort of play devil's advocate with me, and I do that for them. Nothing on our team goes out to a client review without having some sort of internal form of debrief, check-in, internal review. So having peer review is super important. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Very cool.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to tell you the story about, I'm just going to use my company because it's something I know, but just humor me a little bit. I hope it's okay. But I love my new logo, and I haven't had a chance to update my website. But I want to tell you a little bit about, I went from Leah Chang to Leah Chang Learning. And now, of course, it's not just me. And, at what point in your brand do you start stepping away, right? So the very first thing that a lot of people do is think about, like, what am I going to call myself? So if you're in that stage right now, raise your hand, give us a little wave. And it relates to the question someone else just asked, like, check in with your group of people, your advisors, and be like, hey, I'm thinking of calling my company this. What do you think? So one thing I realized, and I don't regret this, but it shows a bit of the journey, is I can't do everything anymore. So Leah Chang Learning is not really a great name for a company where I can't promise that I'll be 100% on every stage of a project. So our group has changed to LCL, or LCL Group. And I'm just going to share a little bit about how we got there. The brand concept was very much something I wanted to bring to our profession, which is we're friendly, we're accessible. A lot of the clients that I get, and this is relating to that first question, most of them are women working in nonprofits who need advice on learning technology or who are just getting their feet wet in e-learning. There's a lot of groups out there that have let's say they're just starting out on their digital adoption journey, right? And it's scary because they've probably talked to some bigger groups or some other technical consultants who maybe talked over their head. And so it's really important for me to make it approachable, to speak in plain language, and to not be afraid of technology, but also it has to make sense to their clients, right? So I saw that there is a need, and also that's how our brand has been successful. I can talk tech with the tech people, mostly who are men, let's be honest. But I can also, make my clients feel comfortable. They don't feel like they're lost in the jargon. They can ask questions. It's a safe space. I also wanted to show that, like, this can be a sexy industry. I used to spend a lot of time as a learning management system administrator, and nobody really valued that. I realized, like, how powerful it can be if you have a good LMS team. So if you ever check out some of my blogs or webinars, I want to show that our work is sexy. It shows that we have experience. We can be courageous, and we can be confident, and that's always sexy, right? So I want to show that we take this seriously, and it's very sophisticated, but there's a playful side too, and that comes with feeling comfortable in our profession, right? I also really advocate for not dismissing the behind the scenes work that everyone does in learning and development. A lot of it is not considered sexy, but it should be. I want it to be playful. We are creative as learning experience designers. We want to sort of, push boundaries, but also it has to be quantifiable and proven and evidence-based. So here's a couple ways that, I try to embrace that on my team. And I'm only sharing this because I want to show that, putting effort into your brand to build in the psychological safety, the cognitive diversity, and the motivational drive is a really great way to get started on the right foot. So part of the logo, which is kind of a bunch of blobs or like a bloom, if you like, it's sort of hearkening to the synapses of the brain and when we make connections, and that's all about what we do in learning and development. It's building those neural pathways, it's making stronger connections, it's turning thoughts into ideas, into actions, right? So it's really important for me to remember that every day. And so I built that into our brand. And this is going to be maybe a little bit weird for Americans, but in Canada, growing up, we watched a lot of the Barbapapas. Does anyone know the Barbapapas at all? Highly recommend you Google Barbapapas. It's a children's show. Actually, it was from Belgium, I believe. But I grew up with these sort of beings. They look a bit like jelly beans, but the entire show is about how they morph and how they solve problems. And so they're shapeshifters. They shift and change and solve problems that they encounter, and there's a whole family of them, and they are adorable. So highly recommend you check them out. But that's what I want us to embrace as a group, as a brand, as consultants for learning and development, which is we can be flexible, we can work with the clients, we can change and shift shapes. We can use, our best tools and knowledge and skills around us and each other. Part of the family of Barba Papas is they work with each other really well. But they also solve problems, right? And so that helps us realize that that's our goal at the end of the day. If we cannot vet the training and learning and development products that we design and the services we offer actually help solve organizational problems, then maybe that's not what we should be doing, right? Thank you, Toddi, for sharing the Barba Papas link in the chat. That's awesome. Yeah, probably because I was in French immersion, I watched a lot of French shows, so I watched the Barba Papas in French. Anyway, Barba Papa means like father's beard or cotton candy. So the dad is like the shape of a cotton candy ball. Anyway, so I'm just sharing a few stories about how we build this into the work that we do, and you can still have your own personal brand if you're an employee, right? But branding exercises are really good for that. For example, learning is sexy. I get excited about what we do. I love my work. I love also like learning from other people's experience. We work a lot with consultants who are people with disability. We work with educational committees. We work with subject matter experts. It's so fun, right? So find the joy, find the fun, find the sexiness in your work. And maybe if you're not experiencing any of that, you can always change the situation, right? So thank you very much for all your comments. I love that. That's great. And so just to go back to that question we had, who are my advisors? I've really appreciated chatting with others in this space, and it's you. You are the community who are making change happen. You're sharing your stories. You're supporting each other, building each other up. Like, how lucky are we to be part of this group? I also really love working with my clients, and I consider my partners. I've learned so much from my clients, and you'll see if you visit our website at all, or if you're hearing about me talk about my clients, I get to work with some really cool groups who are advocating for accessibility in the workplace, inclusion. We're working with some really important causes, but important ideas and people. And so I get a lot of fuel from my clients. And so I guess maybe, before we pause and have a few more questions to wrap up, I just want to say, like, find your joy. Make sure that you have a good balance of those three things for a healthy professional life. And, sometimes those things may get a little bit of imbalance, but you can always come back to the things that bring you the most passion, right? Yeah, thanks. All right. So before I go to this next one, I'm just going to take another question. And if we have time, we could do a fun activity. So Toddi, do you want to pick another question for us? Ooh, there's a good one about pricing. If it's okay, I might pick that one if it's all right. I'm just going to read out, I think it's Stephanie's question. How do you calculate pricing? Do you have to consider being competitive? I love that. And Toddi, if you want to, thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you. I love that you use the word competitive. So yes, calculating pricing is one of the hardest things. You just got to start somewhere, right? Especially in Canada, I think a lot of us are, we're not charging market rate. And so that's part of my challenge. Every year I increase my rate. So if I start with a client at a certain rate, I tell them right off the bat that it will increase every year. Inflation, groceries, things are expensive, right? I also calculate pricing based on backwards design. So if I grab an amount, I try to work backwards and make sure that can I do it within that amount. And that often helps answer the question like, yes, I can, or no, I can't do it for that price. The reason I use backwards design a lot for pricing is because I work with nonprofits who often have a budget cap. And it's amazing what you can have you can get done and produce, even with a budget that you may consider a little bit small. It helps you make better design decisions, actually. So calculating pricing, all I can say is it's trial and error. I often, when I work with my clients who are nonprofits, I say to them, what can you afford? What grant money do you have? What is your cap? And then we work within that. And the second part of your question is, do I have to be competitive? That's the beauty of the space and the work that we do, that I don't ever feel like there's competition. We all have unique skill sets and unique approaches to offer. At some times, I've had consultants who prefer working 100% alone, pair and team with us to work on different types of projects. It just depends on what the work is. So I don't actually feel like we are ever in competition with each other. I, in fact, often give clients over to other consultancies and they do the same. You probably need to know what your unique value proposition is. Like, what does your group provide that is a good fit for the different clients? And so I would probably answer, I don't consider, having to be competitive. I am more conscious about what are the services I can provide that meet a certain type of client's needs. And so for my business, my group, what I realize is we work with clients who need both e-learning products and the infrastructure and the sort of internal enablement and awareness to be able to make those sustainable programs. So that's a great question. I hope I answered it. The calculating pricing one it's a long story. We should have a talk just about that. But mostly it's just I started somewhere and I've been increasing it ever since. And I also have a sliding scale. I want to work with certain groups, and so I need to be flexible. If I want to work on a certain project, but they only have a certain budget, then I try to calculate within that. And I find that gives us better design decisions too. Sometimes I find those the most creative to work in. Yeah. Thanks, Toddi.
Yeah. Did you want another question?
Yeah, let's do one more. Yeah.
Okay. So let me show you this one. You kind of alluded to this, but this is a good
question. Stephanie, rocking the questions today. I love it. So what's the difference between a project manager and a consultant? Yeah, good one. I'll be honest, I think I play both those roles all the time, right? So being a business lead is very much about being a project manager, but the difference is I actually do the work as well. And so I can make those decisions as a project manager that maybe if I hired someone to do that for me, or with me, that they cannot, right? So I think there's a lot of value for learning and development individuals, especially if you're a solopreneur, to also have project management chops. And what that means is you have structure, infrastructure, you have some templates and language to talk to clients, like timelines, milestones, risks, how are we going to mitigate risks, all those things that you need to do. Also, make sure that if you're embracing project management, you have a scope statement, right? So to go back to the question, is there a difference? Yes. Do we need to play both roles? Yes. I have in the past had employees and consultants who were project managers with zero learning and development experience. And that's been a very healthy relationship. It's a good reminder that, the more hats we wear, the little bit more frazzled we can be. On the other hand, a project manager without learning and development may not be able to make some of the decisions that we make constantly as instructional designers. Like, when does it make sense to add video to a product, a learning product? Do we have the budget for it? All of these things are very, very much a Venn diagram of those two roles put together. So I hope I answered your question. That was a really good one. It's definitely served me well to play both of those roles and wear those hats at the same time.
Excellent.
Great. So I'm going to come back to a few more questions, but I want to just do a little activity if that's okay. So I love using Gen AI just to see what's out there and see if there's helpful things or misinformation out there. And so I thought we'd do a little activity. I just prompted ChatGPT and said, find me some quotes and inspiring words about women consultants from a woman's perspective. So this is the definition they gave me. I want to know, what do you think of this? would you say, for those of you who are consultants or even act as consultants in the workplace, would you say that, women consultants offer a unique perspective? The words here, leveraging a unique blend of experience, skills, and insights as a woman. I don't mean to sound sarcastic. I do think this is accurate. I think that we do provide a very special service, a very unique and very complex view of the options and how to problem solve. And so I don't want to forget that we have clout in this industry. We have lots to offer. You'll notice I did not use the term imposter syndrome because we're not imposters. There's a lot of value and wealth that we can provide. So we have expert advice, we can offer guidance, and we can offer solutions. And it's because we work with our clients. And of course, there are men and other individuals who do that too. It's just nice to know sometimes how others and, Chat GPT and the interwebs see women consultants. So curious if you want to add any comments about what you think of this definition. And then let's do a little quick activity. You can enter a number in the chat, but these are some quotes that AI generated about women consultants. I bolded some keywords here, but I'm kind of curious, like, how do you feel about these? Is there a quote that you that resonates with you or that you connect with? I'll just give you a minute. I might have a sip of my drink here.
I will say I like number 3, where it says that we're advocating for inclusivity and diversity, which I do think we bring that perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Toddi. I would hope that everyone does this, but I really think that we, especially in the learning and development space, women are offering this. There's a reason why there's a lot of DEI consultants that are women, that are entrepreneurs. I think these are all very inspiring and good reminders for us, because there's a lot of value that we provide that we may not know all the time, right? Anyone else have anything that they notice? Let's look at the chat. Some people like number 4 as well. It's about building relationships. Absolutely. And to answer the very first question we read out, it's like, how do you get more business? It's the relationships and it's the trust you build with those individuals and their organizations. That has been the best business development activity I've ever done. It's not paying for LinkedIn ads. It's not Google ads. It's about, showing up and being a reliable advisor to others, to yourself, and to be advised by them at the same time. Oh, some people like number 2. Yeah, strategic advice, not just based on data, although that's very important, but also based on emotional intelligence. Most of the time, I gather and listen information from the client, and it's about especially when I'm doing like a requirements gathering for a learning management system or other learning tech stack, it's about really like listening and coaching them, prompting them into giving you those requirements. If you just ask them for a list, they're not going to know, right? And nor will they feel, nor will they fulfill the needs of the requirements gathering that you need to do. So yeah, that's awesome. Anyway, this is what ChatGPT came up with, which I think is fascinating because there are more and more of us in the space. We're talking about the joy it brings us. We're talking about the challenges. I think it's fantastic to sort of pause and validate together. So yeah, great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share the last slide, which is I want to say thanks for coming to the first session. Lewis, thank you for hosting this and for the team you put together. Let's lift each other up, the sky's the limit kind of thing, right? I'm excited for the rest of this week. I'm going to take a few more questions, but I just thought I'd end with this and just say, like, I've only been successful because of peers like you. So thanks for listening in, and I'm open to advice and stuff too. It's all about, learning from each other as we go and grow as professionals. So let's take another question, Toddi. I think we've got a few minutes.
Yeah, excellent. Hang on. Okay. What L&D tech would you recommend to someone who wants to transition from an employee to a consultant? I think this is a good question because it kind of hinges on the investment we need to make.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the very first thing is everyone should have, in my opinion, again, this is just my tip, but should definitely have an account, Articulate 360 account. I don't personally design and develop in Storyline anymore. I have others who assist me because I'm not super great at that. Like I'm really slow. Like it's just something that isn't part of my daily practice. But I really enjoy working on the analysis and the content gathering and the storyboarding. I also recommend. I've really enjoyed having a learning management system to sort of demo to my clients. You don't have to have and pay for one yourself, but there are a lot of free trials out there that you might want to explore. And often I use that to demonstrate or to educate my clients in terms of how these things work from the back end, right? You'll definitely need to have some sort of free software for invoicing. There's a whole whack of free stuff out there. You don't have to pay for it. I think I started off using Zoho Invoice. Found that really helped me to, get organized, invoice. And I really embraced using Google Workplace. Keeping my files, managing clients' content and their intellectual property is really important. And in some cases, I would tell my clients that their information would be stored in a certain area. In Canada, that's important because sometimes clients would like to have, data sovereignty and keep their data in Canada. Others are more flexible about that. Let's see, what other learning and development tech? I've also found that collaboration spaces are really important. So a lot of people use Miro. I tend to do that in sort of Google Documents, slides, etc. Let's ask the group, what other tech? I hope I'm answering your question by that. I work a lot with, and I go to a lot of conferences where I talk to the vendors most of the time, right? Spend a lot of time in the exposition hall, try to get in touch with all the vendors out there and understand what they're offering so that you can stay neutral, platform agnostic, but also realize what's out there. So I guess it depends if you are a learning technologist consultant or if you are a sort of more of an instructional designer from a course development perspective. But yeah, let's add some more tips and answers to this question in the chat.
Yeah, there's a lot of good suggestions in here, actually. So, I mean, this will be something we can look at later too, the list. But Miro, Canva, actually Zoho, which I've used in the past for invoicing. There's some good stuff here.
Yeah, Wave apps, absolutely. Yeah, thanks. I'm just blabbing away here so if I think this is a great question. We can have a whole conference just on this, right? Yeah, I definitely use Canva, Camtasia. Depends on what you're doing as well, right? Like as a consultant, if you want to wear many hats and do all the things, or if you want to just do the one thing, that will also drive your decisions for technology. Yeah, awesome.
Yep, very good.
Thank you.
Well, we're getting close to time. I don't know if we have time for one more question here or not. We did have a question about networking for a younger person entering this field. So the question was if you had suggestions on how to network.
Yeah, I love going to conferences, virtual and or in person. I would also ask people to do an information interview. I am completely open to that. Hint, hint, if you'd like. I think also it's about contributing to your community as well. So if you are just entering this field, I would definitely say get involved, ask questions, be polite and respect people's time. My time is my livelihood. I do charge for my time, but I also make time for people who are joining our industry. And so ask for an information interview. Join your local chapters or international chapters. Definitely take advantage of professional associations like this one, Learning Guild, ATD, you name it. There's a reason why professional associations exist, right? Yeah. Anyway, other advice for this person? Please share in the chat. There's so many ways to network. It doesn't have to be going to a cocktail event and talking to strangers, It can also just be about volunteering or getting to know others in the space. And you're doing the right thing by showing up here already. So maybe connect with this person who asked this question, everybody. If you want to network, this is a great space. Yeah.
And send LinkedIn connects to as many people as you can, because people in our space love to talk to new people. And I know I'm going to get a lot of connections, but it's totally fine. I love to talk to new people in the space too. So
yeah, on that note, please connect with me. Reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Leah Chang. You can email me, Leah at Leah Chang Learning. I am so grateful to be in this industry and just love working with others as I continue to learn and grow and make mistakes and learn from them. So thanks, everybody. And thank you, Toddi. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I think we just hit right at the top of the hour. So thank you so much, Leah. This has been fabulous. So, and I know that, this will be available as a recording later. So everybody, thanks for showing up, and be sure and grab your calendars to see what is coming up for the rest of the week, because there's some awesome stuff out there. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.